less and less housing available. Okay. All right. So good. Hello, everyone. Brent Silberbauer here with Brent Silberbauer Real Estate. And we are talking today about interest rates, mortgage rates, something that's really affecting the housing market. I'm joined today with Tim Cooper right here of Caliber Home Loans and Ashley Brooks of Change Home Mortgage. A little bit about these two right here. Ashley Brooks is young, but don't let the looks fool you. She's absolutely crushing it. She's helped over 400 families get into homes. She works with Home Change Mortgage and is just absolutely tearing it up. Licensed in multiple states too, right? That's really awesome. And then Tim Cooper works for Caliber Home Loans. He's been a loan officer for 23 years. Tim has overseen well over $2 billion. With a B, right? Yeah. That's 1,000 million for those at home in loans through his office, and many times been the number one office in town, and has been through a few downturns and has seen a few things, and that's why I love that you're here to really bring your perspective there. So, and I've worked with both of them, and I've had wonderful experiences with both of them in escrows and transactions, and it's really good to have you guys here. So, welcome. So obviously, first question, we're talking about interest rates in Chico specifically, and really want to focus on Butte County larger than that. But the median house sale in Chico has gone down about 10%. When you look at January 2022 to January 2023, median home sale has gone down 10%. Now, during that same time, interest rates have gone from about 3.5% to about 6.5%, roughly, January to January. I remember right here. You guys are the experts. So how much of these decrease in home prices are because of interest rates? How much of it is because of other market forces? What's going on in the housing market as it relates to how interest rates are affecting the housing market here?
So I have a lot of opinions on this.
Yes.
But as far as interest rates are concerned, I do think that this is a big role to play in why housing prices are dropping. But with that in mind, I think sometimes we have a little bit of a short sight when it comes to interest rates, because as far as the national average, our national average, if you look back 30 years, was 8.4%. So we are still under that at 6.5%. And we were amazed or blessed to have these 3% interest rates. But we had that scenario because of a lot of tragic things that happened. So we got these 3% interest rates due to the economy coming to a halt on multiple times. So we had once with the housing crash, and then we had another one with a worldwide pandemic. So as far as the 3% interest rates that we did see, that was great for mortgages, but it came at a really hefty cost. So when you start to factor that in, I think that when interest rates were low, it did create an increase in value. And since they have started to go back up, I do believe that that is playing a role, but I think that we had those because of a really big cost.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tim? How much of this, we're seeing a decrease, the numbers don't lie. Days on market has also doubled year over year. How much of it is because of interest rates, in your opinion?
Oh, it's fully interest rates, and it's all contrived by the federal government. They're trying to increase interest rates to stop inflation. So the number one go-to in inflation is increasing interest rates. And so the goal was to put the lid on house prices, and they've been able to do that, squelch them a little bit. They're starting to kind of come back into affordability. So when you really look at 3.5% interest rate versus a 6.5% interest rate on someone who makes $7,000 a year, that payment of $1,436 represents about 20% of their household income. And then at the same deal, if it goes up to 6.5%, that payment only represents 28% of the household income. So there's an 8% increase. Although the payment is an increase of 40%, the actual impact to the consumer in terms of dollars out of their pocket is only 8% of their income. So if you see a 10% dip in housing price and an 8% increase in housing to your monthly account, it almost washes itself out. So we really deal on ratios and housing household income, and it's only been an 8% increase. All the rates have gone up.
Okay, at a household income.
Correct.
Okay, so what you're saying is basically, price have come down. Well, median sale price, and there's a whole wide variety of, sale prices and market segments, but the median has come down 10%. Interest rates have gone up about 3%-ish. And you're saying basically that equates to about 8% of people's total monthly earnings is going to that delta. Is that what you're saying right there?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an 8% increase. So basically, to your bottom line, it's costing you 8% more. Is that what?
8%. If someone for median household income in Butte County is $85,000, so it's roughly about $7,000 a month.
Okay.
So if you took $7,000 a month and run those same scenarios, a 3.5% interest mortgage is going to be 20% of your household income, and then a 6.5 is going to be 28% of your household income.
Okay.
So it's about a 28 to 8% increase due to the interest rates, assuming someone didn't even get a pay raise and things of that nature. So we're dealing more on housing ratio than it is percentage of increase in payment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I love talking to both you guys because you guys both have opinions, and you're super involved in the community here. So, so we could see, this is obvious. The Fed's raising the rates. It's affecting the buying power of the purchaser. So something's got to give. And that's what's happening with the purchase price. Now, what other factors? We talk about supply and demand, and in addition to that, it's almost like this other third party. We were talking about this, about the Fed. We got supply and demand, and then we got the Fed. What other factors, in terms of supply and demand, are really affecting maybe the market here in Butte County? Is there anything other than the Fed that's really, causing either demand to increase or supply to, not go up? I mean, how are you seeing the supply and demand factors affecting Butte County here with our local population?
Well, I'll say, I don't think the Fed organically in our community are impacting other than the interest rate side. But, we had an anomaly in which, the Paradise Fire. Since the fire, I think we had about 280 houses on the market at that time. Okay. And then I think within a few weeks, there was like 50 houses on the market. So really, we really haven't recovered since, the Paradise Fire. Yeah. The inventory was all gobbled up. We were seeing a normalcy. We were starting to see stabilization of prices, a little bit of house price reductions, and that was fall of 18, I believe. And then all of a sudden the fire happened, and then overnight, it's multiple offers, 50, 60,000 over asking, and we just really haven't rebounded since then. We've just been in a housing shortage.
Housing shortage. Yeah. What say you, Ashley?
I say housing shortage as well, but to speak on what happened with the fire, I think that a large part of it too is that so many people had insurance money. So when they had the funds that were paid out through insurance or through the lawsuits, a lot of people purchased cash. So when you're purchasing cash, or we don't have enough inventory as it is, and people still want to stay in Butte County, it's difficult to recycle that inventory. Similar to everybody getting 2% or 3% interest rates, that's going to be what I call shadow inventory of homes that aren't going to get recycled because people don't want to step away from that and take that higher interest rate. So I think it's going to play into the supply and demand.
Yeah. Okay. I 100% agree with this because you got a bunch of people like me. I'm sure all of us, everyone who had a house in 2020, 2021, what'd they do? Refinance. Yeah. Or bought or moved up. But they all got in. No one has that bought in that time, or even owned a house in that time. No one has over 5% interest rate. I don't think there's a single person. You guys were so busy, man. I couldn't get an appraiser. It was like refinance, mania. So you bring up a really good point, Ashley. That brings up the next point: supply and demand, right? The supply of houses. For me, I feel like I'm never going to sell my house because I have a 2.75% interest rate, and I think there's a lot of people out there that got under 4%. They got 3.5, 3, 2, 2.5, whatever. They're never going to sell, I feel like, because they could rent for more than their mortgage. So why would you just have the renter pay down your rate? Yeah. So, okay, so this is crazy. So when you have a decrease in supply, the prices go up. So we have this weird effect. How do you see that affecting, like we look at supply, demand, and the Fed, right? How does this look like moving forward? You got the average buyer out here looking at the market, like when should I get in? What's going to happen? How do you see these different scenarios playing forward, like in the next 6 months, year? Like, our house price going to go up because of demand, or what's going to happen?
Yes, I say it's going to go up.
You say it's going to go up on the record.
Yes, and I say if you are looking to purchase a home, I highly suggest jumping in as soon as possible, or putting yourself in a position to purchase as soon as possible. And there's a few reasons why, but one is that if you wait, it could cost you thousands, because if we don't have enough supply to meet the demand, we could see us back into a situation where we're paying over asking, waiving contingencies, multiple offers. So if we wait for interest rates to drop, because we have a huge amount of people that need to purchase homes. If you look at the Census Bureau, the new family formation between the ages of 25 and 37 is at 14 million. So you have 14 million potential families that are first-time home buyers that would want to purchase.
These are a lot of millennials, right?
Yes.
Young millennials.
Yes.
They're forming. They don't want to live in an apartment with 2 kids and a dog, basically.
Yes, and they need a home for their dog. So
Yeah, they need a backyard.
Exactly.
And a garage.
Exactly.
You got to store all the basketballs and all the stuff, for the kids.
yeah,
Okay.
so when we start looking at that, we're going to have a supply and demand issue that's going to arise, and it's going to be very intense in my opinion.
Yeah.
A little bit scary because right now everybody hears this big megaphone of don't purchase, the housing market could be crashing, or interest rates are so high, wait for them to come back down. Well, that same megaphone is going to get turned on when interest rates do drop, and now you have more competition. So you may not get the home you want. You may have to pay more, and you may save a couple $100s on your monthly payment, but
By waiting or what?
by waiting, yes.
Okay.
But you may have to pay thousands more. Think about how many people you helped that paid over asking in 2020 and 2021. And is that worth it is going to be the next question that I would start weighing out.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ashley, so you think housing prices are going to go back up? So
Yes.
but we all agree housing prices have been going down since about summer. Early summer was kind of the peak, right? Do we agree? And then it's coming down. Do you feel like right now we're at the bottom, or you feel? I mean, where you say that? I said over the summer, are they going to go up or down? Over the summer, you're saying they're going up
I say
that
they're
early?
going up over the summer.
So you feel like we're coming into basically the valley, the bottom, and it's coming back up.
Yeah.
And why do you say, in terms of interest rates, do you feel like in the next 3-6 months? I mean, because everything that I'm hearing with the Fed, they're going to keep incrementally, and this may be another question. I see they're increasing all the way up until summer, even more. I could be wrong. We're speculating. So how is it going to go back up, I guess? If it's been going down this whole time, what's going to happen to make it go back up? What do you think?
So there's a few things, but the Fed has a 1-2 punch.
One-two
And
punch.
that's all
Ooh.
they've got. They've got this 1-2 punch. So when inflation's out of control, we're going to turn around and increase interest rates. But once they get the handle on that, they're going to turn around and decrease those interest rates. Now, there's an economics report indicator that states that every time that this has happened, typically 13 months after a peak on this particular economic report, we're going to start a recession. And after this peaked, which was about 13 months ago, that's when we're going to see a recession hit. Well, we peaked in December of 2021, so we're 13 months later. So this is going to put you into a position where we're going to see that recession hit. And what does the Fed do when a recession comes? Every single time, they hit you with the 1-2 punch. So they're just going to turn around and decrease interest rates when that happens.
Okay.
So if we look at the history, it says that it's going to happen, and we're going to be due for it.
All right. Thank you for going on the record.
Yes.
You think housing prices are going to go up summertime?
Yes.
And rates are coming down at the same time, summertime? You think that, let's see, the next 3 meetings of the Fed, and for those at home, the Fed is where they get together, they meet, and they either increase or decrease or keep interest rates alone. They meet about every, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks? Something like that.
Like 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, so in the next 3 meetings, are you thinking they're going to be raising, or you think they're going to be coming down? What are you
I think
feeling?
the Fed is going to raise their rate, but that doesn't necessarily correlate directly to mortgage interest rates. So even if they do raise it, or what I've seen is when the day the Fed raises interest rates, we tend to see mortgage interest rates get a little bit better.
Yeah. I think it's important to note the Fed funds rate is essentially what banks borrow money at.
Right.
It's not necessarily a mortgage-backed security coupon.
Yep.
Totally separate. And so mortgage-backed security coupons are really looking at inflation. And when inflation's at bay, it's a skew that an investor can purchase a mortgage-backed security in their finance portfolio. And so I think that when the Feds will continue to raise, but that's going to be consumer debt, credit cards, boat loans, and in which banks or businesses borrow money, but it's not directly correlated to mortgages. So I think that's the misnomer. As the Feds increase, people are going, oh, the rates went up a quarter, but your mortgage rate may have improved because now they're putting a squelch on inflation. So yeah, there's speculation that in March they're going to be 1/4 to 0.5% increase. And then kind of the days that are circular in early May, we feel like inflation will kind of start balancing out, and in the going forward look at inflation should be at bay, and we'll begin to see the mortgage coupon activity in terms of purchase of mortgage-backed securities improve, and that's going to improve the mortgage interest rates separate from the Fed funds rate, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, I hope everyone at home follow that way. You got a little deep on that, the mortgage coupons. But so, Tim, let's get you on the record. What do you think? Prices going up, down? When we come into summer, let's say July 1st, Are prices more than they are today? The median price?
Yes, and I think for a few factors. I think
Okay,
we're looking
agree.
stable or, maybe mid-single digit improvement over the course of the year, primarily because rates will continue to come down and we'll start seeing late January, early February, we saw rates get into like the low to mid-sixes and applications went up 20% nationwide in terms of mortgages, right? People are coming off the sideline ready to go. And then early February, we had an employment report that was, out of whack, and then rates kind of began to inch back up. But we know that as we see those rates begin to improve, all those people are coming off the sideline. And we're going to create a demand situation where if we only have 110 houses in Chico and people are coming off the sideline and we have 7,000 consumers, we're going to see at a minimum stabilizing of prices, if not increasing, because we're going to be in price wars.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say, if I could just summarize it, correct me if I'm wrong, is that and I think we all agree, there's a massive demand for single family homes,
Yes.
owning your own home. Millennials, which baby boomers and millennials, two largest population demographics, and they tend to sway the economy a lot by what stage of life they're in.
Right.
And so family formations, you mentioned that, Ashley, there's a lot of people forming families, having kids, and they don't have a home yet. And maybe they've been trying to gauge it, wait till their income comes up. There's a huge amount of demand for homes. There's not a lot of supply. The thing that's keeping it at bay, though, is the interest rates. They can't afford it. It's expensive right now. But you're saying as soon as those interest rates drop, which both of you guys predict about summer, we're going to see the bidding wars come back or the prices go back up, which usually is because, people are bidding against each other, right?
Yeah, I think from a list price, it'll be competitive. And I think because of the demand, we'll start seeing over asking. Start getting 11 offers and it's going to be highest and best. And you'll probably start seeing a 5 to 10% bump on what the list price was. And then next thing you know, we've had a 5-6% appreciation over the course of the year.
So this is really interesting. Ashley, you came in and you spoke to our brokerage about a few really interesting key things. And you talked about who's buying houses right now. And I think it was like 35% were first-time home buyers. I think like 15% were investors. So when you take those two categories, that's half the people buying houses are either first-time home buyers or investors, okay? So when you put yourself in their shoes, what are some strategies? So let's start with the first-time home buyer. Your first-time home buyer, what's the strategy right now? If I know prices are probably going to go up, if we're speculating, we're assuming prices are going to go up, interest rates are going to go down. I'm a first-time home buyer. I'm saving my money as fast as I can. What advice would you give to a first-time home buyer? Maybe they're just right there. They could afford something. It's not quite what they want, but they're kind of inching up there. What kind of moves do they make right now for the best financial outcome for them?
So if there's a first-time home buyer and maybe as long as they're comfortable with the payment. So that's the biggest thing for me is making sure that my clients or my people are comfortable with their monthly payment. So if they can make the monthly payment and find a house that fits their needs, I say that we can use some creative financing, some down payment assistance programs to help get their foot in the door because 42% of sellers gave concessions on homes in the last quarter. That's a huge percentage.
Yeah.
So if we can help minimize your out-of-pocket costs to help get you into a position to purchase, that's something that we've been doing a lot with our first-time home buyers and then putting them in a position to refinance. Because I think that's been a really big thing as well as we're talking about how we know interest rates are going to come down or we feel like we know that interest rates are going to come down. And if that is true, or that's what I believe to be true, then I want to be really careful with my clients about buying down interest rate. That's something that I've been preaching is running your return on your investment for the cost of buying down your interest rate. I've seen that happening a lot right now where people are buying it down a point or two, but that could take 3 years to make a return on your investment. So if your odds of refinancing are really high, it's something that we want to make sure we're going over with our clients and making sure that they feel comfortable with it and maybe sticking with something like a 2-1 buy down instead and putting that seller's credit into an impound account to help cover it.
Okay, cool. Tim, first-time home buyers, what do you tell them right now? There's a whole bunch out there looking at houses. What do you say?
I think it's getting the game. I think right now you're going to get a discount on the house. I mean, because there's some motivated sellers and things are sitting longer, like you say, and statistically we're 10% lower than we were year over year.
That's true.
So I think you can solidify your price today, and then if rates do improve, you kind of have the 1-2 punch. Speaking of 1-2 punches, right? So you get the sticker price that you want, you get the sale, and then you can go back and refinance and get the payment lower, and you get the best of both worlds. I think trying to wait and time both, you'll give something up. I think in the long run, you'll end up rate may be lower, but probably being a competitive interest rate, a competitive price environment, you're probably not going to get the sticker price that you want. You may end up paying full price with a lower rate, and you probably end up similar payment year, when it's all done and said.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's crazy too is that I heard something that about half the people that purchased between 2020 and 2021 don't actually like their home. I mean, think about how many people you helped who had to put in multiple offers, and the home they wanted they didn't get.
Yep.
So this is that time to get the home that you want at the price that you can afford.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so speaking of first-time home buyers, I'm going to continue on this. So once upon a time, I was a first-time home buyer, and when you're first-time home, you don't know anything. You're just like looking at the news, like I don't know. I think I need to buy a house. I don't like renting. I don't think anyone really fully likes renting. You can't change the backsplash out. You don't fix the lawn or whatever. It's just you're renting. So once upon a time, I had an agent. Now this is when I was in my 20s, 2007, and she would come in. I was working at Sprint. I was making okay money, maybe 50,000, $60,000 a year, whatever, and I could afford like a little fixer upper house. And she just kept coming in. Now's a great time to buy. Now's a great time to buy. And it was 2007, mind you. And in my stomach, I'm like, I don't know. And I was just too nervous, and I didn't do it. And I look back. I'm actually grateful because the next year was 2008. And a lot of the things that she was showing me were just so expensive for a fixer-upper, okay? So sometimes when you're a first-time home buyer, I think the message that is constantly conveyed by the real estate industry, which is agents and lenders, is now's a great time to buy. And we're saying that today. We're saying now's a great time to buy. But sometimes it could feel like, is it ever not a great time to buy? Is this just the perpetual message? So let me ask you guys this. Is there ever not a good time to buy, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think whenever the payment is not comfortable for you, whether you need to save up more money, it's really because you have to make the payment. Once the deal is done and everybody walks away with their commission, you have to write the check every month. And I think it's important that, you can figure out a budget that you're comfortable with. And obviously shelter is always going to be a biggest chunk of your expenses. So they really need to just drill down on what they can cut out. And so in the mortgage world, we typically exclude electricity bills and things of that nature, because we know when it all hits rubber hits the road, they're going to make their mortgage payment, and that's always going to be the biggest commitment, from the household expense. So in that, we've just seen people say $2,500 is the number, $3,000 number, 15, whatever the number is, we're going to back into what you truly qualify. And then once I call it the guided discovery, many people want to pay $2,000, but they realize for their taste and what they need for their family in terms of 3-bedroom, 2-bath, it may be $2,500 a month, and they have to get to that guided discovery of that. That's the number I need to pay per month from a household expense standpoint in order to get my family really what they need. So payment is the number one factor.
Amen.
I agree full-heartedly with Tim. If that monthly payment puts you into a position where you become uncomfortable or you're stretching yourself, then I don't think that it's the right time for you. And I think that's something where we need to reevaluate with the client and make sure that they're comfortable with that monthly payment, because Tim's right. At the end of the day, they have to write the check.
That's right. So it's more about, and that's what I say too. It's more about, hey, is your job secure? Because sometimes you could be a home builder and it's cyclical, just like a real estate agent, just like, there's cycles in the market. And is your income secure, and can you pay that monthly payment? And if the answer is yes, and you could feel good about it, green light. If the answer is like it's slim, then use caution.
Yeah. You make a great point, because all the loans we've done over the last 12, 15 years have been secure, right? And people have worked, and you get the debt to income ratio, and they have that job, and they make that amount of money. So all the loans we've done for years and years have been super solid. Like there's no stated, and breathe on a mirror, you get a loan. So that's what that pent up demand
and that's what we saw in 2008, right? Yeah. They're just giving loans out to no job, no income, no problem. Right? Ninja loan.
Correct. Yeah. So you have to look at, what are the variables that are affecting the market. So in this case, all these loans that have been done at 2-3%, they're not going anywhere. They're gridlocked to some degree. There may be people who move, relocate and may have to sell, but we all can agree that there's going to be some gridlock in terms of people who are sitting on 2 and 3% interest rates. That's going to eventually impact resales in homes that do come on the market. But I tell people, really, it's like, don't look at your home as an ATM receipt. I think the psychology of the 23 years I've been in the business, I've seen the psychology of home with Zillow and things of that nature, people looking at the home as an ATM receipt. And so they're always looking at what is the value.
Yeah, it's
What
like
is
my
it
net
worth to
worth
me?
is tied to this.
Yeah, and so it's a deal where our parents bought a house for shelter, right? And so to that same argument of someone who bought a house in 2007, I did number. There's a house on the market now at Herlax, right? It's like 429 on the market, and someone would have probably paid 288, 290 for that house, right? And so at 5.5% interest rate, if they continue to make that payment, and we're 15 years later, they were probably 185,000 on that house, right? So although it did dip to like 230, 220 at one point, someone who's selling that house for 429 would have almost $250,000 in gross equity.
Yeah.
So, when you start looking, you can make numbers look any way you want them to.
Yeah.
But someone who stayed the course in that particular time point and didn't look at their house as an ATM and said, this is where our family, so I'm raising my kids, this is where we go to school.
Oh, so
we
good.
We can still afford the payment. We're just going to ride it out. And then now they win in the long run.
That's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
You have anything to add to that?
I agree with Tim.
Yeah, let's go. We got a lot of agree. I was hoping a little dissension, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's really good. And it's interesting because like we like, to your point, house prices gone down 10% in the last year. So everyone that bought in the last year, on average, they're negative equity right now. So if they're looking at like the bank account receipt, like you're talking about, they're negative. But at the same time, they got a low interest rate, and if they have a good job and they keep paying that, they're just fine. House prices went down, but I'd like to be on that side of it with the negative equity with a lower payment. So it's really interesting. So now you can buy it at 10% down. So what I'm understanding, 10% off from last year, 10% discount, no competition, high interest rate, which is higher than normal, not higher than historical averages. And you could, we're speculating a little bit here, afford it, but there's a possibility and probably a probability interest rates are going to come down at that time. You can refinance just like everyone did in 2020. At maybe what do you think they're going to come down to? We think we're going to see 4%, 5%, 6%. Where are the interest rates going to go? Let's say a year from today. How or two? Like where's that low point in the next 2 years that you see? I mean, I don't think we're ever going to see 3.5 again for a long time. Speculating again. Where do you guys think it's going to come back down to?
Yeah.
Like they got a 2-1 buy down. They're hoping, they're rolling the dice a little bit. Like, man, I hope.
The hard part for us to get 2 and 3, it was like a national pandemic.
Yeah,
right?
pandemic.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah, right.
Or a worldwide pandemic. And so people who may see 2 or 3, it may be at the cost of your life or your job.
World War
III
III comes out.
I mean? So we probably don't even want to see 2 or 3 because something's probably bad happening in the
That's
world.
right.
You know what I mean? Yep. So in that, I predict it's hard. I mean, we look at a lot of prognosticators and research that we look at, but I'd say they're talking high 5s by the end of 2023, and then probably get to the mid 5s by 2024. And so
mid 5s.
Yeah, mid to low 5s by 2024.
Okay,
and then that's a stable market. Rates stay within 5 and 6. I mean, that's
that's great. What do you say, Ashley?
I agree with Tim again, but I'm
mid
thinking
5s, 2024.
I'm hoping for the low 5s, so that's what I'm hoping that we'll see. But I do think we'll be somewhere between 5 to 6%.
Okay, what's the high point? You think we're going to see 8? You think we're going to see 8%?
No, I don't think so.
I think those days are over. And the good thing, if we did, people who are buying now and you get 6.5, you're going to love us when rates go to 8, right? So I take a discount at 5, 6.5 today, then 8%. So I just, in this window, I think the next 6 months is really all things, stars are lining up for consumers to get a good price and a fair interest rate with the ability to potentially get a lower interest rate down the road.
All right, cool.
That's a pretty good strategy.
Okay, last question. So say you're an investor, right? We're talking about the half of the market here, first-time home buyers and investors. You're an investor with all cash. Buy now, wait, price going to come down a little more? What do you think? You think we're at the bottom, so you think it buy now.
I think by now, I'm with the 1 in 6 that are investors that are purchasing. I say that I would do it now. With interest rates increasing, the cost of shelter is increasing, which means the cost of rent is going to be increasing.
That's right.
So if I was an investor, I would be purchasing now, and I would be signing a 1-year lease.
If you're an investor, you purchase now, sign a 1-year lease.
Yeah, have the tenant sign a 1-year lease.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. If it's cash, then it's really sticker price at that point, and you just want to get the lowest cost, for your cash.
Okay. Yeah. All right, cool.
I do have one more thing to add.
Yeah.
Just on the cycle we see, in terms of intervention by the government and things of that nature. When everything goes bad, the government does typically throw a helping hand in. So we just seen last week, the government now has reduced FHA mortgage insurance for people who are doing FHA loans by like 30 basis points, which results to about $80, $90 a month on a $300,000 loan. So those are ways where they're trying to incent and enhance the home ownership for first-time home buyers through the FHA financing. So they're discount on the mortgage insurance that traditionally comes with the FHA loan. So all trends, all stars are lining up to how do we keep the engine of first-time home buyer and just home ownership rolling.
Okay, good. I saw an ad recently, a local real estate agent. He's like, hey, you could buy this house with $0 down. How do you do that? You're a first-time home buyer. That's the hardest thing. You get that down payment. I mean, saving $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. That's a massive nut for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to buy a house $0 down right now? And if so, how?
Yeah, there's a few different options. So there's down payment assistance programs like CalHAFA, GSFA, or maybe even using something like a USDA loan. And with the statistic of the 42% of sellers giving concessions, because we tend to forget just not the down payment, but also the closing costs. And closing costs is just a fun way for a lender to save fees. And man, is there a lot of fees when you are purchasing a home. So if we can get those sellers to help cover your closing costs, then it puts you in a position where you may not have an out-of-pocket expense. Or if it is, maybe it's less than $1,000. But it comes down to the negotiations with the seller as far as the closing cost piece, but then the other programs plug and play for the down payment.
Okay. Correct. Yeah. Program VA, there's 100% financing programs.
What if you're not a VA, though? You're regular Joe?
USDA or down payment assistance, kind of bolting some of those on.
All right, cool. So if you're a first-time home buyer, call one of these two. They're both excellent. And strategize, because there could be a way to get in. If you're saying we're kind of close to a bottom on price, and you can refinance out of the interest rate, maybe a good time. Maybe a good time to make some phone calls and just see what you're comfortable with. Would you agree?
No, 100%. Yes, I'd say get in the game doesn't cost you anything, right? Just be in position. You don't have to worry about getting ready later.
All right, cool. All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I think it was great content for everyone out there. So appreciate it. How can we find you guys on social media? How can the people out here contact you? If they want to contact you guys, where do they go?
So you can go to our website, Change Home Mortgage, or you can find me on Instagram under the Brooks Lending Team. You can reach out to me on Facebook, again, the Brooks Lending Team. If you have any questions, you can also shoot me an email at abrooks, BROOKS, at changemtg, like mortgage.com.
Same, Tim Cooper, Caliber Home Loans. You can find me online. Facebook, Tim Cooper Lender. So I'm pretty old school. I'm not the millennial where I got all the Instagram accounts, but at least I'm on Facebook. And then obviously just look me up online, Tim Cooper, Caliber Home Loans, and easy to find.
All right. And I'm Brent Silberbauer, BrentSellsChico.com, all the social media channels. Search that. You'll find it. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
More and more students are going to school. There's less and less housing.